Microsoft announcing it will begin offering its cloud computing customers. AMD's AI chips a move, which will give users an alternative to NVIDIA's processors. Microsoft is expected to announce more details at its Build Developer Conference. Next week, you're taking a look at shares of both companies here. Moving higher pre-market, but AMD the outside move there. It's up by about 32% on this news. I did a lot of learning about actually what it takes for these RDIF IL intelligence chips and the broader data center and what's taking place. Well, it's a cluster thing. Microsoft's clusters, apparently of the AMD AI chips, they're going to be sold through this cloud computing service, of course, that Microsoft has Azure here, and ultimately for AI models and applications to run these businesses actually have to put together or cluster multiple GPUs here. So that from some of the great reporting out of Asia, yeah, and it's interesting. When it takes a look, Ely, what this could mean for AMD's business, AMD expects 4 billion AI trip chip revenue this year. Has said that the chips are powerful enough to train and run those large AI models. When you take a look at that and coupling that with exactly what this ultimately means, here for this business, here we are expected to hear a little bit more details when Microsoft does hold its event. But clearly there's a lot of excitement surrounding the potential here of this partnership and what exactly that could ultimately mean here for both of these companies. And then you've also got to ask what this could mean here for NVIDIA as well, and whether or not how much market share this could potentially take from them or pressure this could ultimately put on the business. Yeah, I mean, I guess with the clustering that takes place in data centers, it's actually more advantageous to have multiple different types of chips running for the large language processing. So that is something that is far over my head. I would love to get an expert on that, but no doubt the stock movement is not over my head. You're taking a look at AMD shares, as we were just a moment ago here, up pre-market 3.5% on this news. And you got to wonder how this company is also going to be drumming up some of the other major deals here that are similar or synonymous to what they've just been able to do with Microsoft year-to-date company, up by about 177%. Right now, Microsoft is heating up the AI chip W between AMD and NVIDIA, as the tech giant recently revealed that it will make AMD's AI accelerators available to Azure cloud customers. This surprise move, especially from an industry leader like Microsoft, positions AMD as a great and more affordable alternative to NVIDIA's dominant AI chips. And this is one of the reasons why Wolfe research analyst Chris Casso is bullish O&D stock. In fact, he sees AMD shares hitting $210, representing over 25% upside from current levels. And he's not the only one. AMD's cutting-edge products and strategic partnerships have analysts and investors alike see pumping at the bit, eagerly anticipating the company's next game-changing move. In today's video, we're going to go over this partnership between Microsoft and AMD, and also talk about whether AMD stock is a buy now. But before we do that, if you want to keep up with AMD's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market. So, click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. The news, too, that you're referencing is this story Reuters came out with that next week. I think it's called the Build Developer Conference, and Microsoft is going to, according to Reuters, unveil a plan to allow some of their cloud providers to utilize some AMD GPUs, in addition to some of the NVIDIA partnerships that they have. And this is a huge potential win for AMD as they break in to that space with a very important player within. But it also goes to show that while NVIDIA might be the one that everyone wants, if they can't bring something to market, eventually it pivots. And we've seen this on a macro basis too. What do you mean? What do you mean? I like your chips best. But I can't get them another way to describe this, though, is, hey, look, there was manufacturing demand worldwide. Well, China was closed down longer than the rest of the world. Well, that demand had to find somewhere to go. So you've seen a pivot to India, you've seen a pivot to other markets. It's not necessarily just going to go back to China now, as all those cap capacity built up in other places. China hasn't made themselves any less risky. And if you're an AMD investor, you're saying, hey, take your time, NVIDIA, because this is opportunity for AMD and Intel and other names to take advantage. So while I think this also highlights that, hey, look, this pie is just ever growing and there's enough for all these companies to have a piece of it, it's just going to be, what did that market share look like? Microsoft in the same story is also talked about. They're going to launch their own stuff. And this is another thing too. You have expensive products, high margins, and you create a $2 trillion market cap going to try to, I'm going to start figuring out how to do this myself. Some of these big companies with all this cash are going to say, why don't we make one of those? Yeah, hire some of their people and start making our own. Yeah, exactly right. And we're starting to see that. And it's not always going to be directly at the NVIDIA, but I think it was called the Maya chip that Microsoft's looking to roll out is actually looking directly at ARM and potentially has 40%, according to them, more process power. So this is not a story that we might even be, and this is the first inning third. I don't know what we're in, but the story is not over, and it's ever evolving. So Intel was the king of this castle 10 years ago. All they seem to be doing is tripping over their own feet. At the moment, Nydia and Fall from Grace have gone AMD in particular, which is the name we're talking about, has gone from David versus Goliath. In the case of Intel and AMD to potentially the Goliath in the story, which is impressive by offering AMD chips for AI workloads. Microsoft provides a high-profile endorsement for AMD's technology. And given Azure size with a 23% market share in the global cloud market, this partnership could boost AMD's data center GPU business greatly. Microsoft's timing is notable too, pinning AMD against NVIDIA right before NVIDIA's new Blackwell GPU launch in the high-stakes AI ship race. Microsoft is using AMD as a counterweight to NVIDIA's dominance. Looking ahead, Microsoft plans to unveil more information on its A&W's ED partnership at its developer conference next week. Not only that, but it will also preview its own custom AI chip called Cobalt now. While Microsoft partnering up with AMD on something like this is great for AMD's stock, it's not like they're abandoning NVIDIA completely. When NVIDIA's Blackwell GPUs were first announced, it was revealed that Microsoft would be one of the first companies to get their hands on the GPUs. The thing is, demand for NVIDIA's chips is so high that they're rarely available, and many tech companies struggle to acquire them. So it's only natural that even NVIDIA's biggest customers are making their own chips or turning to competitors like AMD to ensure that they have enough chips for heavy AI workloads. Regardless, this is a great opportunity for AMD, and it could help it take more market share from NVIDIA. However, AMD still needs to demonstrate sustainable competitive advantages. Beyond any temporary technical or headline boost, execution on roadmaps remains key. But by looking at what they have been doing recently, we're very sure that the company will keep growing, which will reflect positively on AMD stock. Wolf Research made a strategic move recently, swapping NVIDIA with AMD on its prestigious list of top stocks known as the Wolf Alpha list.